I'm not sure if you did that, but my husband slash
All right, it's time for Meet the Candidates, hosted by DeLand Pride, for the second year in a row. So, what we'll do, how many candidates do we have?
I think 9.
9. We'll bring them up. They will have 5 minutes to talk, and then time for questions afterwards. Questions can be sent through DeLandPride.org or VolusiaPride.org. Either one of those routes to the thing, because we took over the whole county. Yeah. Last year this event was really great. There was a lot of online engagement, so if anybody's watching online, please send in your questions at VolusiaPride.org. And the very first one we're going to do is State House of Representatives 28. 28. There's 3 different State House of Representatives districts that cover Volusia County: 28, 29, and 27. 4? Okay, great. But the what's the 4th one?
30.
30. That makes sense. So if you would also describe what part of your district comes down in Volusia and what the district is. And first up is Joe Hanoush.
Thank you all very much. Yeah, so I'm Joe Hanoush. I'm running for State House District 28. This is my second time here, so I've been 2 for 2 right now for this event. I had a good time last time, and I'm having a good time so far this time. So glad you all are here. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for the Land Pride, Volusia Pride, Heather, Eli, everyone, all the other candidates that are here, all the voters that are here, people that don't know why they're here. They're just having fun. Cool. That's cool too. So I'm running for State House. So the district is Ormond Beach, Ormond by the Sea, Holly Hill, Daytona Beach, South Daytona. I think it's a small part of the land that's like, I guess, northeast part of the land, just a small area there. So yeah, that's that. And I'm going to tell you all about the 2 most frequently asked questions of me, kind of get those out of the way, and then I'll save the questions for you guys for the Q&A part. So the first most frequently asked question of me is, are you a Republican or Democrat? The second most frequently asked question of me is, are you a Republican or Democrat? Let's switch that, Democrat, Republican, whatever. Either way, those are the most 2 frequent questions. The answer to that is, both of them, is no, I am not. I'm going to be a libertarian. Some people think when they hear libertarian, they're like, what is that? Isn't that like Republicans who smoke pot? No, it isn't. Another thing is people say, they're like, oh, you're a Democrat that hates taxes. Not exactly. We are our own distinct political party. We believe in individual rights, limited governments. Basically, people are able to do whatever they want as long as they're not infringing on rights of others. No force through coercion from the government. So what does that look like? So it'd be like, oh, by the way, I used to be a Democrat and I used to be a Republican. I left both parties and I came to the Libertarian Party. Because there were some things I liked about the Democrat Party that they weren't doing, same thing with Republicans. Like, what I liked about Democrats were they were more friendly towards immigration. I'm the son of immigrants. I've seen firsthand how great and beneficial immigrants are to our country. I grew up with, my friends were obviously not me, but friends of mine would do drugs and whatnot. Share period or no? Okay. So I thought, they're good people, and I talked to several folks during my previous campaigns about them being, they were in the wrong place at the wrong time, and they got a record, and they can't vote for like 20 years. Meanwhile, they're coming out of the library, they have kids that are obviously not a danger to anybody. So I believe in like restoring those rights, getting rid of those laws that just don't make sense, make criminals out of peaceful people otherwise. And some of the things I liked about Republicans was, they're for less government wasteful spending, which, who's not against that, right? So, but neither of them were doing the thing. So we keep talking about the same issues for years and years and years. So eventually I came over to the Libertarian Party and trying to help build them up. And, we have our own separate candidates. We're not like part of the Republicans and Democrats. We have Tina Benevolent is running for state house, or sorry, not state house. I'm running for state house. She's running for U.S. Senate. So she's running against Rick Scott, and I think Democrats have a primary, so we don't know who's going to be there yet. We have a presidential candidate who, by the way, is part of the LGBT community. He's a 38-year-old gay man, so he's our Libertarian Party's presidential candidate, Chase Oliver. So I encourage everyone here to look him up for sure. I'm not sure how I'm doing on time, but
You're good.
all right, I'll talk forever. So yeah, that's about it, really. So
Let's move to questions.
questions, all right.
Yeah, we already have an online one.
Good. All right.
So, for the online question, first of all, who's the incumbent that you're running against?
There is no incumbent.
There's no incumbent.
So Tom Leake is currently the seated person. However, he's termed out. So he'll be running. He's currently running for state senate right now. Right now, the other two opponents. You want me to name them? I guess, or no?
Yeah, you're fine. Okay. In your initial answers, you mentioned that you do not support government infringement of rights. But are there examples of where you think that government should have a role in affirmative action, establishment, and/or protection for LGBTQ plus rights and
Yeah.
protections?
So LGBTQ plus folks are just like everyone else. We're all humans. We're all breathe, eat food, and whatever. So I'm very much for the same rights as everyone else has. I don't want government to discriminate against anyone based on anything, whether religion, skin color, gender, etc. Anything. Who they love, how they practice their religion, any of those things. Did I answer the full question there?
Yeah, I guess one of the parts that question might be getting at was, is there a need for extra protections written into things? So, that would be LGBTQ protections for discrimination at work, discrimination in, government,
Yeah, obviously, I don't want anyone discriminating for, anyone for any reason, frankly. But if a place of work, frankly, if they want, if they only hire people 6 feet or taller because you got to be able to reach the, top, clean the ceilings or whatever. By the way, I've actually done that job before. I know why they hired me. But like if they can't, if they choose to discriminate against that, that's on them. They lose a good worker potentially. And frankly, if someone's going to discriminate against me for whatever reason, who I love, what religion I practice, whatever, I don't want to work there. I don't want to help them. So they're giving me they're telling me they don't want me there. So hey, I'm happy that they're telling me that. I will say thank you and I will leave.
Thank you. All right, audience questions. Come on, audience. This is your chance for the local candidates. Which is, honestly, you mentioned the presidential election. The presidential election takes up a lot of space, right? But anybody running for any local election will tell you that the president doesn't fix your streets. He doesn't set your tax code. He doesn't answer the phone when you call. So all of this is super important chance to talk to your local candidates and participate in the process. And here's our first participant.
Hi, Joe. Can you give me an example of something that you consider to be wasteful spending currently?
Yes, I can give you a list. Right now, we have something called economic incentives. I'm using air quotes there. Make sure that gets on the Facebook. Yes, I'm using air quotes for economic incentives. What that means is, and all levels of government do this, by the way, it's basically subsidizing. It's government picking winners and losers in a marketplace. So they'll, a good example is, not a good example, they're all horrible examples, but one example is, we had Amazon down in Deltona, I believe, or I believe they come up, maybe both of them actually, and the city will give them a tax credit for bringing in X amount of workers for X amount of dollars. That is government picking winners and losers. That's wasteful, not really wasteful spending, but they're not taking in the revenue, which everyone else in the room, including the competition, have to pay for, have to make up for. Another one, actually, I told you I'd go off on this one, but I'll just be really quick here.
I was going to ask you, what's another one?
Yeah, lobbyists. Right now, and I'm from Ormond Beach, right? So my city of Ormond Beach, I was sat through 5 years worth of meetings for city commission over there. And I don't recommend doing that. I don't recommend anyone doing that. It really hurts your mental health. But they actually they use taxpayer dollars to hire a lobbyist to go to Tallahassee and the federal government to lobby our own elected officials that we elected, and that who we're paying for. So it's like one government hiring someone to go try to get money from another person we elected somewhere else. So it's like a different governing body, which doesn't make sense at all. So I don't know. I've worked to keep money locally so that we know how to spend it here. That's just my opinion. Sorry.
Hello. I wanted to know if you could speak more about your answer on protection of marginalized communities and government's involvement. Because, like, I obviously am Black, but also there are segments of our LGBTQ plus community that cannot necessarily hide parts of themselves. So if all of downtown, for example, was to not hire Black or trans people, there would be large portions of our community that would not have jobs. And I don't know if just saying, well, you don't want to work there anyway is a great answer. We still have to pay our bills. So I want to know what you would say in that instance.
A couple of them. I already said one, and you don't like that answer. That's cool. Here's another one. Start your own business. Those businesses that are discriminating against you, like let's say, I don't want to name one, I'll invent one. ABC, whatever, warehouse, whatever. And say it's the only warehouse in the town, and they don't appreciate people that are, again, I'll use my own example here, taller than 6 foot, right? So what I will do is someone taller than 6 foot, I'm going to start my own. And I'm going to be like, this is for everybody here. So I'm going to get all their customers, plus the ones that are 6 feet taller. And you know what? They'll be like, oh, well, this place over here doesn't discriminate against height or anything else. I know I'm using a silly example here, but anything else. I think I'll be bringing in more of their customers, including my own, that I already am accepting to. Does that make sense? No?
You can say whatever you want.
Exactly. That's the First Amendment right there, right? We can agree to disagree. That's cool. But
I have somewhat of a follow-up. So a little bit of a follow-up to that. So while I love the idea of promoting entrepreneurship within marginalized communities, it's a little bit of a privileged statement because that is not an option for many people. And as someone within a marginalized community, for me being disabled, rates of unemployment, rates of poverty are significantly higher within marginalized communities because of the discrimination in the workforce. So how would you address those issues with a community that does not have the privilege, the financial backing, the education, because of many other reasons, to take that entrepreneurial approach?
yeah, and again, like I'm running for government office, right? So what I could do is either make a law or repeal laws or whatever. Right now, we have a law on the books that prevents, or supposed to prevent people or businesses from discriminating against disability. We already have one. It's obviously not working, right? So that's why I look at it from different points of view. Like, how do we do it without needing the government to? I really don't know what else they would do. Make another law? I mean, I don't know. So that's why I'm thinking kind of outside the box. Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's already a law for that. What would you do? Let me ask you. You don't have to answer. I don't mean to put anyone on the spot, but I mean, I'm open ears here. You know, if I can find a better idea, I'm all ears. I'm happy to hear. If anyone has a suggestion for me, I'm being sincere. By the way.
That's a very good reminder that this is the opportunity where the candidates are here and you can ask them questions and you can participate. You can come down to the Abbey or you can do it online. Any questions that aren't asked, we will send to them. And now, our time is up. Please give a round of applause. Honestly, we really appreciate all candidates who are putting themselves in this. Many Meet the Candidate forums are more previously done questions and less people talking to them and having a frank discussion live stream. And it's another dark and stormy night here in Florida, and anybody who attended the last one remembers that it did get a little hot there for a second. You know.
Do I want to avoid checking the comments of this?
Okay, so next up. Next up, we have State House District 29 and Matt Johnson. If you could again explain District 29 to people who might not know. Because they changed it, didn't they?
They did, I think it was in 22 though.
Yeah. In 2022, they did change the district, so now even who you're voting for is a little.
Yeah, government, right? My name is Matt Johnson. I am a husband, a father, a small business owner, the chair of the Volusia County Libertarian Party. I currently sit on the Volusia County Code Enforcement Board, and I can 100% tell you that government is the problem in all of our lives. Whether it's Republicans or Democrats, they seem to be, once they get to Tallahassee, they forget about the yous and the me's and the regular mom and pop shops and the working class and just the people back home who they're supposed to represent. So, like she said, I am running for District 29, which covers part of DeLand, all of Deltona, part of Orange City, and Lake Helen. So if you are in any of those areas, that would be your candidate. The incumbent is currently Webster Barnaby, a Republican. But I'm not here to talk about the incumbent or any of my opposing candidates. I'm here to talk to you about libertarianism. We have a presidential candidate running who is a member of the LGBT community. And I'm going to steal a phrase from him. What we believe in is your life is your life. Your body is your body, and your property is your property. And as long as you are not trying to violate the rights of someone else or hurt someone else, the government shouldn't have their noses or their fingers or their business in it. That goes for who you love. That goes for pride parades. That goes for immigration. You know, there's a huge heated topic on immigration, and while people who were representatives in Florida don't really control that, that's more of a federal issue. Libertarians typically believe in imaginary borders don't need to be protected by guns. People should be free. The market should provide. The young lady who was right there asked Joe Hanush before me about discrimination and how would you handle businesses discriminating against a black woman or a member of the LGBT community or a disabled person. And the libertarian solution to that is let the market provide. Joe kind of hinted on it, and he said start your own business, but it's more than that. You don't have to just start your own business. If company A doesn't want to hire you because you're Hispanic, company B will gladly hire you. Take your business away from company A, and the market will deal them the punishment that the government shouldn't be dealing with them. They'll go out of business, they'll go broke, and then they'll learn the consequences of being discriminatory. That should be the libertarian solution to discrimination. Currently, like he said, there are discrimination laws on the books. The problem is they're not being enforced. And that's on local leadership, local officials, not the White House. The White House is not going to be the one controlling what happens in your lives on a day-to-day basis. It's going to be your city councils, your county councils, and your state reps. They're the ones that are going to most affect your lives. And I'm running because I believe that the current situation in Tallahassee is that they have all forgotten, as I mentioned earlier, what it's like to live in the community. I was in an interview for an endorsement not too long ago, and he called it, they've been Tallahassee, where they forget what it's like. And they vote party line every time, no matter what the voters say. Have you ever tried calling your state representatives? Voicemail, every time. I know because I have. Have you ever emailed them? You get a canned response every time. I'm running because I'm not that guy. I'm one of you, and I plan on staying that way, and I want to represent your rights and not hold you at gunpoint under the force of government. I don't know how I am for time.
That was a good ending, time-wise. So, we already have online questions, which anybody can do by going to VolusiaPride.org or DelandPride.org, which now reroutes there because we took over the whole county. Okay, so the question is, your campaign website mentions parental choice in education. Where do you stand regarding the rights of parents versus the rights of their children? Where's the line? For example, should parents be able to restrict their children from learning about Black history and LGBTQ plus topics in their school libraries?
Okay, so the libertarian answer to that is, in a perfect world, we would abolish the Department of Education, and again, free choice all around. You can send your child wherever you align with. That's not the situation that we have. State representatives don't have the ability to abolish the Department of Education. But what I would say is, children are under the age of consent. They cannot consent. So the parent, in a perfect world, which we all know we don't live in, the parent is the custodian of that child and is charged with making the best decisions for their children based on the information that they have. And that's the way it's supposed to be. That's the way it should be. Now, we will all agree that some parents are just not good parents. You know, the parent of a transgender child who feels we're in the wrong body, who is abusive or whatever, and refuses to support that child in the right ways. In which case, that is wrong. And could in some situations, be considered child abuse, depending on how far they take it. As far as parents' choice in education, I think, yes, parents should have the right to send their child where they choose to educate them. I think if we have a problem with the curriculum we're specifically talking about, again, the problem lies with the public education system. I think that needs to be overhauled from the top down. Republicans need to get their ideological nonsense out of the Department of Education. It just needs to be about reading, writing, math, science, and keep the other stuff out of the schools if we're going to have a public school system.
The 3 R's, reading, writing, arithmetic. Any questions? Audience questions? There we go.
You mentioned reading, writing, arithmetic. Are you then saying that history plays no role in
Nope,
education?
that should be included, absolutely. White history, black history, Nazi history, the good parts, the bad parts, yes, because how else are we as a society going to learn from our mistakes if we're not taught them?
Who gets to decide what history to study?
I'm sorry, repeat that, I didn't hear the last part. Who gets to decide what?
Who gets to decide the narrative and the perspective that the history is taught from them?
The parent. You can decide not to send your child to the school who is pushing an agenda that you don't like. That should be the way society works. If one school over here in the same town is teaching your kids that Jim Crow never existed and white people were never horrible and whatever, and then this school 5 miles away is not teaching that and they're actually teaching the correct history, you should be able to take your child and go to that other school. And by the way, your tax dollars that are going to this school should follow your child to the school that you choose for them to go to.
Last question. So if you're elected and you do go to Tallahassee and everything in your world just happens the way you want it, what would you do to make sure that that policy is actually enacted? What would you personally do to make sure that policy happens?
I would personally put forth the bill and whip the votes to make it pass.
Another online question. You mentioned that government should not interfere unless someone is attempting to hurt someone. How does that relate to gun laws? In other words, what's your stance on gun control?
My guns are in a gun safe and they're not going to shoot you. I promise you. Now, if there is a credible threat, let's talk about Saturday. Well, let's use that as an example. There was an attempted assassination of the former president. The CIA, the Secret Service and the police had been told that he was there with a gun, and they waited for 30 minutes, as of the latest reports, before doing anything, and they let him take the shots. Now, as a libertarian, he was a threat the moment he climbed up there and got anywhere within range with a weapon, and they should have responded. The failure that we see a lot of times with school shootings is a failure of society not teaching our children murder is bad. Guns are not toys. killing people is not cool, no matter how bad they hurt you, mentally, emotionally, or physically. Law enforcement needs a complete overhaul. That's where this starts. Law enforcement needs to take action when they are presented with a threat. And then these things will stop happening.
Thank you. Another question from the audience.
I'd like to follow up on the question regarding letting parents send their kids to wherever they want to. Due to the curriculum, I do believe that ends up being segregation, doesn't it?
It's called voluntary association is what I would call it. It's not segregation unless,
Well, I mean, it's voluntary
unless,
segregation.
right. And as a libertarian, I believe you have the right to associate with whoever you want. I disagree vehemently with bigots, racists, xenophobes, whatever, and I refuse to associate with them. Now, if someone else wants to sit down and have dinner with a known racist, they should be free to do that, but they can be publicly ostracized by those who disagree with that. And that's absolutely 100% libertarian, 100% based on freedom.
Just to follow up on the education question, I don't entirely disagree with you on the whole being able to send your child to the school that best aligns with your beliefs, your principles, your values. Where I see an issue with that is that not every family has the means to do that. You know, we have assigned schools because of proximity, and a family that has, you know, both parents are working. Maybe one of those parents is also working 2 jobs to be able to afford to support their family. Doesn't have the luxury of being able to drive their child 5, 10, 15 miles away to a school that they would prefer that child go to. So how do you honor your beliefs about how the education system should be structured and mediate those disadvantages to people who have less means to be able to take advantage of that? I think that makes sense.
Excellent question, and it's one that makes sense given our current situation. Currently, I live in DeLand currently. My son's assigned school is George Marks Elementary. My tax dollars as a homeowner here in DeLand go to George Marks. If I choose to send my son to Discovery Academy north of town, whether or not I can drive him there or not, the tax dollars are still going to stay with George Marks. The solution is to pass the money follows the child. The tax dollars then go from the old school that you're no longer taking your kid to the new school to help them fund things like buses to come get your kids. That would be the solution in my view. Money follows the school child. Not only does it open up competitiveness, there will be more schools, closer proximity, but there will also be equitable actions such as transportation, things like that. Because in this economy, let's face it, a lot of people are working 2 jobs.
Interesting. I love this candidate forum. This is a great discussion. Everybody give a round of applause to Mr. Johnson. All right, next up, same race, District 29, is Rosemary Latham.
Good afternoon. I'm Rosemary Latham. I'm running for Florida House of Representatives, District 29. District 29 is most of DeLand, all of Deltona, Samsula, Osteen, heads east. We have Spruce Creek flying. Figure it out. It's a little bit carved up.
Thank you for correction.
I am running against Webster Barnaby. Does anybody in this room know who Webster Barnaby is? Can anybody tell me something about Webster Barnaby?
Yeah.
Say that again, please.
Call him mutants.
He called the LGBT community demons and mutants.
Just for anybody who might not be able to hear online, what the audience is saying is many of them recognize him as somebody who said publicly that trans people were mutants and other members of the LGBTQ community, displaying a shocking lack of knowledge about the X-Men universe. In my opinion.
Well, in fact, that's what he did. He stood on the House floor in 2023 and called the LGBTQ community members imps, demons, mutants. There is no place in Florida legislature or anywhere for that matter for there to be that degree of hate, for there to be that degree of discrimination. Unacceptable. Anybody can run for office, but not everyone can lead. That is why I'm running for office. So let me tell you about who I am and what I do. I've lived in this community for 53 years. I have been a nurse for 43 years. And I've worked in this community for 43 years. I'm an advocate. That's what nurses do. That is our job. We advocate. We stand up for those who cannot speak for themselves, and we fight for what is right. When I go to Tallahassee, that 43 years experience of being an advocate will be transferred to advocating for each member, each person in House District 29. Because that's what I do, that's what I am. And we need a healthcare worker in the House. Why? Because healthcare decisions are being made by people who do not know what they're doing and the far-reaching implications of the laws that are being made. I'm a healthcare worker. I am there in it every day. I have patients come to my office. I have to teach them, counsel them. I have to hear about their struggles, and I have to deliver their health care. Well, I'll tell you one thing. My exam room is not big enough for the American government. It's between me and my patient in the discussion that we have. And this does not just depend upon reproductive rights, which is a major issue right now. Women's reproductive rights. Why does the government have any business in the decision that a woman makes for her own health? That decision is made between the woman and her health care provider. Nobody else. Or whomever she chooses to bring into the discussion, but it's up to her. And this goes for gender-affirming care as well. Our government has got its hand in gender-affirming care, and it has no business being there. Now, as I said, I've been a nurse for 43 years, but I've been a nurse practitioner for 25 years. If y'all know a nurse practitioner, okay, I provide primary care. Okay, I can do just about everything a physician does in my office, but I'm a nurse practitioner. First patient I took care of with gender-affirming care was in the year 2000. 24 years ago, my first patient for gender-affirming care. Fast forward to 2024. My hands are tied. I can no longer provide gender-affirming care if that same patient were to come to my office today, because the state of Florida doesn't believe a nurse practitioner should be able to do that, number one, and the state of Florida wants to limit gender-affirming care, number two. 24 years later, we're going backwards. What does that sound like? What other law does that sound like? Tell me. Roe versus Wade. 50 years a woman has had the right to choose. Now all of a sudden she doesn't? Are we going back in time, or are we not supposed to be progressing and making things better? We're going backwards. We're becoming more restrictive. That's not the direction that I see us going. And again, as an advocate, as what I do, as who I am, that's going to be my role in Tallahassee. We've got a lot of issues that we have to deal with. What about insurance? Anybody talk about that? How many people in here own a home? What's happening to your homeowner's insurance? It's going up. Why?
Government
The reason homeowners insurance is going up, first of all, is insurance companies are not being transparent. There are ways people can save money on their homeowners insurance, but people need to learn about those ways. Anybody hear about Senate Bill 7028? Senate Bill 7028, My Safe Home Florida, delivers a subsidy for people to make their home improvements to bring it up to insurable levels. That's a subsidy offered right now to persons who qualify monetarily, perhaps, if we want to call that verbiage. We need to expand that law, and we need to make it every year. Why? Because we need to bring more insurance companies into the state of Florida. We need to make our homes desirable to be insurable. Right now, insurance companies do not want to assume that risk. So we need to prove that our homes are safe to be insured. We live in Florida. Guess what? We have hurricanes here. What are we going to do? What I believe the governor said, let's hope we don't get a big storm. How's that working?
Leaving some time for audience questions. Do you want to, Mike, drop any last thought there?
Well, we've got a lot. We have education issues. We have Amendment 3 issues. You know, we talk a lot about education here. Volusia County has a $200 million deficit in education. That has to be made up. How are we going to do that? Our teachers, 50th in pay in the United States. How are we going to draw talent to our area when they are 50th in pay? What teacher's going to want to come to Florida? So my proposition or my idea is let's pass Amendment 3. Let's tax recreational marijuana. Let's fill our coffers with millions of dollars that we, when I go to Tallahassee, can earmark that money to come to Volusia County to pay for the deficit and to pay to get teachers in here, because teachers deserve to be paid.
All right, we got an online question.
Okay.
You ready? Your initial, so speaking of that, if you want to do an online question, you go to which reroutes there. So VolusiaPride.org or DeLandPride.org. You can submit online questions and we will ask them in real time. The other part of that is also all the candidates that are participating filled out a questionnaire specific to LGBTQ issues and other questions that would be on the minds of this organization. So the online question is, your initial answers mentioned that you intend to advocate for local anti-discrimination ordinances. Could you speak more to what you have in mind?
Well, Florida, we have laws already in place for anti-discrimination. Okay, we have laws in place. Now, how can we, that's a tough one. I'm sorry. That really is a tough one, because how do you compel business owners not to discriminate? How do you do that? I'm sorry?
Take away their tax incentives.
Take away their tax incentives. Well, you know, we have to have a certain amount of compliance to the law in order to keep functioning. Okay? So what's going on? Are there grievances being placed that people are being discriminated against, and is this being realized and listened to? And are these real, not that people are complaining, but I'm saying if people have real findings, this needs to be addressed. Now, what can I do? We can ensure that laws are followed and carried out specifically for anti-discrimination in any way. LGBTQ, race, creed, color, whatever. There should never be discrimination. This is the United States of America, and we are a melting pot. And everybody comes from different cultures, and we're all supposed to blend and work together, and there should be no discrimination. So what can I do about it? Well, if we discover or know that there is something going on, it needs to be addressed and taken care of. It cannot be buried under the carpet. Nothing can happen to allow that to happen.
Okay, so pushing it, I'm going to do one audience question if there is one. Otherwise, anybody in the audience can also go to volusiapride.org or delandpride.org, and we will send any of those questions. If you leave, there's a place to leave their email or response so that the candidates can respond to you directly. But saying all that, is there an audience question that is short?
So I'm actually a mental health provider, and I provide gender-affirming care to folks who need it. What are your thoughts about how this is coming downhill, and there's a lot of us that are scared to stay in practice?
One of the things that I am really a proponent of is mental health services. And that is something I want to expand on, and that is something that I really want to make a focus on, because we have psychiatric nurse practitioners that are ready, willing, and able to provide mental health services. Regardless if it's gender-affirming care or whatever it is, there is a whole army of mental health personnel ready, willing, and able to work. But again, Florida legislature ties their hands. They tie their hands. And we have to untie the hands because we have the need. Florida is, we don't know, awful regarding mental health services because we have such a problem with substance abuse. We need substance abuse counselors, we need rehab centers, and we have an army that can help try to meet this need, but their hands are tied. So in answer to your question, let's untie the hands. We've got the army there ready to work. We need to untie the hands and free them to do the work that they are trained, ready, willing, and able to do.
All right, round of applause for Rosemary Latham and all of our candidates. As a reminder, the last two candidates are vying for a seat on Florida House of Representatives District 29. The candidate before was District 28, and now we will do District 27, because there's 4. Dennis Simpson.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you for putting this on. Thank you for live streaming. I am not a good public announcer. I'm not a good speaker. I'm not here to try to win your vote, to be honest. I am only here to tell you the truth. And the truth is, the government is the problem in almost everything that they get involved with. The Department of Education is the biggest thing that I see. You should be able to discriminate against anyone you want to be able to. You should be able to tell someone, I do not want my kids to learn what you have to teach them. I believe you should be as weird as you want to be as free as you want to be your true, authentic self. And you should be able to live your life in true pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness. No matter what path that takes you down, as long as you're not hurting anyone else, and as long as you are not infringing on someone else's rights. If you want to send your kid to a school that has Christian moral values, do it. If you want to send your kid to a pride school, do it. And we'll see. We'll see the results on what turns out. I believe that a school that teaches love and acceptance, I believe those kids will do well. I do. I really would love to see that school succeed. I would love to take the one-size-fits-all factory-style education that we're doing now. You fit into this box or you don't. And if you don't, maybe we'll give you medication. Maybe we'll come up with some bullshit excuse on why something is not right with you. That's not the way the government is supposed to act. They are there to protect our rights, and that is it. Everyone has the right to be free. Everyone has the right to be happy. You may not like someone else's viewpoint. That's fine. Don't fucking communicate with them. Leave them alone as much as you can. Go to your own side. If you see the sticker out there that this is a friendly place, you should be able to come in here and know this is a friendly place. If you go somewhere else and they have a Nazi symbol on there, don't go in there. Just don't go in there. As long as they're not hurting anyone, they have the right to do that. You have the right to do that. Everyone has the right to voluntarily choose what they want to do with their life. Plain and simple. You may not like other people's views. You may not like their opinions. I don't like most people, to be honest. You know, I don't like most people's opinions or views or the way that they want to use government to force those views upon me. I don't fit into that box. Most of us don't fit into that box. You can't have a box A and a box B, and that's your political philosophy. You're either Republican or you're Democrat. Bullshit. There are more choices for bathrooms now than there are political stances. How can you be so complex on all the different things that people feel about, and yet you're either A or B? And no one is going to try to get a political party C or a third party. No one else has talked about. The Libertarian Party has an openly gay LGBTQ plus member that is running now, and somehow the Democrats are the ones that are the most LGBTQ plus rights party. I don't understand that at all. I don't believe that Joe Biden has anyone's best interest, especially the gay community. I have grown up in a gay community my whole life. I have seen the bigotry. I have seen everything that has come from it, from the way that they try to divide and conquer us. No more. There are other options. You don't have to be Republican or Democrat. If you believe that you should live your life and be able to just go, I don't care what they're doing, I'm happy over here, and allow them to do that too, mind your business. It's that easy. It is that easy. It can be that easy. Questions?
Yeah, we have an online one. Okay, to my knowledge, 4 of your opponents are not here tonight. 1 Democrat and 3 Republicans. The 3 Republicans' campaign websites rail against DEI curriculums and or messages of LGBTQ acceptance in public schools, accusing them of being woke, indoctrination, or extremism. What is your response to that?
I know that I have one that claims to be the anti-establishment candidate, is also a ex-police officer. Their husband is also an ex-police officer, and you're telling me that they're the anti-establishment candidate? I don't believe it at all. We do have 3 Republicans that are running. They're trying to get through the primaries, and yeah, I like one more than the others, but really, are we going to go down this path? I mean, we've given Republicans enough power in the state of Florida, and you see what they do with it. They are marginalizing this community. They are trying to play down to it. That's what happens with democracy. When you are outvoted, it's that easy for you to lose your rights and your powers. The government doesn't have the right to take those powers and those rights from you. You should fight. You should stand up. You should be vocal.
Audience questions. Whoop.
This question is going to be really similar to many of the others I've asked tonight. You talked about how people vote with their dollars. If this business discriminates, don't spend your money there. Go to another business that does. How do you address the inequities though in that exist, the reality of our society where the inequities exist, where those choices are simply not possible for someone? If I live wherever I live and I don't have a vehicle and the only grocery store that's a mile from me that I can get to doesn't have a ramp to get into it, I can't just choose to spend my money somewhere else. I now don't have access to food. So how do you address those inequities if the anti-discrimination laws and ADA compliance laws aren't on the books or aren't being enforced? If the answer is just spend your money somewhere else, but that's not an option, how do you address the inequities that policies like that create?
The policies are the problem. You can easily, we've already shown with the free market, if you cannot get into a grocery store, you go to Instacart or whatever these free market options that have popped up.
But Instacart costs me more money. Instacart's more expensive.
Instacart may be more expensive. I don't know what the Instacart policy is. I don't know how much more it costs. I don't use it personally. But if that was the only way for me to get food and I didn't have a friend in the community or something else, which, again, everything that libertarians believe should come down to as local as possible. You should have friends in the community. You should have support in the community. Somebody should be able to say, hey, I will build that ramp for you. There are ramps that have been built by private citizens that the government said would cost $500,000 to build, and the guy built it with his own personal $30,000. They tore it down. That's government policy. I understand someone may get hurt, blah, blah, blah. If someone builds a ramp for the betterment, you don't tear it down. When companies throw out food in the dumpster and hungry people are going after it, which happened during COVID, you don't stop them from going to get it. It's government policy that has constantly gotten in the way and slowed us down from being what we should be, completely free.
Thank you.
You want to follow up?
I do, but
I'll talk to you after. Okay.
I'd like to follow up. Not everybody has community. Not everybody has access to people, or want to, or should they have to rely on other people to do things for them. If you're going to buy groceries, a store should be there that welcomes everybody. That's all I have to say. That's all that needs to be.
So if a grocery store discriminates against a color, or somehow they can tell your sex as soon as you walk in the door and they want to discriminate on you, there's going to be a need in that community to fill. Someone will realize what that is. Most groceries, honestly, can be bought through Amazon or some other delivery service.
So then the marginalized person has to pay extra money to get the same services as someone's not marginalized? Yes, because that's what happens. If I have to use Instacart because my grocery stores in my area aren't accessible, then I have to pay more money because I'm marginalized. Not because I'm choosing to use a service that makes my life easier. I'm forced to use the service that makes my life easier. I'm forced to use Instacart because I don't have equal access.
That's a good reminder to keep audience questions in the form of a question, specifically that they can answer, and not anything rhetorical. Did you want to address that? That would be the last question we have time for.
I see a hand up over here, actually.
Oh, okay. Well,
It was just
we'll push it just a little bit.
I would say, and if there is one, I personally will go to that grocery store.
As someone who is requesting that the community vote you in, where you will represent the whole community, black people, white people, very small segments of the population. What have you personally done to understand the needs and the plight of those marginalized communities who do not have the same experience as you do, so that you can properly represent them the way that they want to be represented, not the way that you decide they should be represented?
Well, communities will form on their own. Again, voluntary interactions. You will find out exactly where the free market leads you. You cannot have the government determine, okay, you know what, small business owner, we've determined now you need a third bathroom. You need to spend $30,000 to upgrade because you're not representing this marginalized community. Most marginalized communities, unfortunately, are a small community. You guys are the unrepresented or underrepresented. You need to band together. You do have a strong voice. Anyone that feels that they're not being represented does have other avenues. The free market, granted, the government, if you get rid of government today, it's not going to be a smooth transition. But I say sunset it, and you will find out exactly where the communities fit in. People will support each other. We're not doing it now because government has separated us. But we will support each other when the community needs us to. Because that's what we have always done. That's what mankind has always done.
All right. Round of applause for our candidate. So one of the things that we do here is we go from the higher districts that in most instances are spanning multiple different counties, and then we'll go to the county, and then we'll start going into the city candidates as well. As a reminder, you can go online and ask any questions that will be asked in real time. The candidates are here, so you can talk to them now, and they all have literature as well. So, on that note, going to the county side, Volusia County current sheriff, Mike Chitwood.
how you say it, current. Thank you. Hey, good to see you. Good to see you. Good evening, everybody. Yes, as you can tell, I'm getting a little older. Getting up here, not as easy as it used to be.
Careful.
First, I want to. Well, we just discovered that when you call 911 and you give them your age, it'll pop up and say it's a senior victim or a senior calling if you're 60 and over. I took great resentment to that today when I discovered that they classified me that when I call 911. So first, I want to thank the Abbey for hosting this event, and I want to thank the Land Pride for hosting the event. I don't know if there's a lot to say about me. I've been here 18 years, 10 and a half years as the police chief. At the end of this term will be 8 years as the sheriff. I think that in that time, there's not a lot to hide or not know about me, right? Sometimes you may have agreed, sometimes you may have disagreed, sometimes you may say the guy's an ass, sometimes you may say the guy's a good guy, does his job. But I don't think one thing you can't criticize me for is my passion, my compassion, and for me, my life is dedicated to fighting for, protecting, and serving this community. And it doesn't matter what your race, your religion, your sexual orientation, or your ethnicity is. My job is to protect you. Not like the clown we have in Tallahassee, who is an elected representative of the people, who decided when a group of folks from this community and other communities in Florida went up to testify of why they thought a law was going to be bad, they were berated on the people's floor in the House. I'm talking about Webster Barnaby. And I don't know of any other elected official that called him out on it. I know I did, and I know I got text messages from other people that were in that chamber when he did it, but my response was, why the hell didn't you do that? You know, it's the same thing when the Nazis came to town. And the Nazis spewed their venom against blacks, Jews, and gays, and Catholics and everybody else that they hate. You know, who was the one that took them on? You know, I took them on. You know, I'm the one that outed them and put their arrest photos up and put their criminal histories up there and put what they do to people and try to intimidate them to get their point across. So hate is real. I mean, I'm not telling anybody in this room anything they don't know, but from a law enforcement perspective, it's real. And you have to guard against that, because if you allow it and just say ignore it, you're emboldening them. You're emboldening them to decide they can take over and dictate the way you're going to lead your life. So, you know, we've arrested people, you know, for hate crimes. We had a fight where one guy beat another guy down and used a bunch of homophobic slurs as he was trashing that person and beating him and kicking him. And we charged him, and the state attorney actually followed through with that as a hate crime. From the office perspective, I'll shift really quickly, and I'll do like an ESPN highlight of what we're doing in the sheriff's office. When I took office, we had 40 vacancies. That number ballooned to 90. So if you have 500 deputies and you're missing 90 of them, it's kind of hard to do your job, especially when you're the police chief in Deltona, DeBary, Oak Hill, and Pearson. Plus, the Constitution of the state says I have to provide courthouse security and I have to provide civil service. So we were able to do something that's thought outside of the box. We're only the second or third police organization in the state of Florida that was able to start their own police academy. Now today, as I stand here before you, I have one more class that's going to go in later on this summer, and we will be completely filled for the first time in over 20 years. We have people, thank you, we have people that are moving here to live in Volusia County, to raise their family in Volusia County, and work in Volusia County. And I think that is a compliment to all of us, everyone in this room and outside of this room, because when they come here, they get a tour. They go to all the cities, they check out the schools, they check out the sheriff's office, and then they make a decision. There's 67 other places they can go, 67 other sheriff's offices. They choose here. So our academy also put us in something that very few police departments in the country have. We are what's called tri-certified, meaning the sheriff's office as an organization, our communication center, and our police academy meet or exceed national standards. There's only 15 police departments in the country that can say that, and there's 18,000 of them. And 3 of those police departments are in Florida. Florida Highway Patrol, City of Miami, and the Volusia Sheriff's Office. 3 of the 15 are here in Florida. That's a hell of a feather in our cap. The second thing that you need to know is we're unleashed this new technology called Live 911. So when you call 911, you get call taker. 911, what's your emergency? You tell the call taker types it in, sends it to the dispatcher then dispatches that. There's a 2 to 4 minute lag time while you're on the phone looking out the window saying, I'm inside the Abbey, and there's a white male in gray pants, white shirt, gray tie, big nose and a mustache waving a gun around. Thank you for getting that. Now, nobody ever gets that when I say that. Now, the deputy assigned to the area hears you live when you're on the phone with that call taker. They can hear the inflection of your voice. They can hear exactly what's going on. And in some cases, you're still on the phone with 911, and that deputy is pulling up. And how that worked, the Osteen was an 8-year-old and 6-year-old playing with a shotgun, and we all know what went wrong there. The 8-year-old took a shotgun blast to her leg. Deputies heard that call, were half a mile away, got there, applied a tourniquet. Air 1 was able to get up 7 or 8 minutes faster, airlift that kid down to Arnold Palmer. Not only did they save her life, they saved her leg. And the trauma surgeons called and told me to tell those deputies, not only did they save her life, but they saved her leg. When minutes counted, they were able to get there, apply a tourniquet, and take it from there. Second piece of technology we have here in DeLand, Spring Hill and South DeLand is where most of my gun violence comes out. We have a system called the Raven system that we deployed. It's over 300 sensors in a 2x2 square mile radius, and it runs off of AI. It discerns between gunshots, cars backfiring, and actual gunshots. And why that's important is you get a quicker response time, and if the deputies get there and there's nobody there, it actually tells them where to look for where they may find shell casings. And why are shell casings important? Because of the last piece of technology we have. The last piece of technology, we're the only sheriff's office in the state of Florida that's tied into the ATF database. It's called NIBINS, National Ballistic Integrated Systems. Any firearm that we seize from a bad guy, any shell casings from a crime scene are loaded into this system, and it tries to match other crime scenes or other guns that were used. So picking up those shell casings and putting them in that system, and I'll give you an example of how it works. There's a shooting in Deltona at 2:22 a.m. in January of 2023. They fire into a home of an occupied house. It's in a cul-de-sac. There's no cameras. There's no nothing. They fire 7 shots in. In the room that they fire into is a 16-year-old and a 7-month-old. God was good to us that night. The 7-month-old didn't get hit, but the 16-year-old did. Turns out these rocket scientists went to the wrong house. All that's out there is 7 shell casings. Fast forward to May of 2023, there's a car crash in Daytona Beach. 3 kids from Orange City are killed. The driver survives. He's got a gun on him. That's in May. In October, the ATF calls me and says, that gun matches those shell casings outside of that window in Deltona. And then we use this little device, and we were able to put him outside of that window at 2:22 a.m. With the system that we have now, within 2 hours, I get a result back. And that's a hell of a lead to get back. We just had a couple armed robberies in Daytona and on us in the Derbyshire area. Daytona makes a car stop. They get a gun out of it. In 2 hours, that gun matched the shots fired in 4 separate robberies that occurred a month prior. So we have some pretty powerful technology that's out there, and that technology is meant to protect everyone. How was that?
Pretty good.
Pretty
Good
fast.
time.
Pretty
Yep. All right. We got an online question and a reminder for anybody watching online that you can submit them through volusiapride.org, and then we'll go to audience questions. So the first online question we have is, in your estimation, what are the greatest physical threats that the LGBTQ plus individuals currently face in Volusia County?
I will tell you, number one is physical threats. And one of the questions was about a parade, which I fully support. But we have to make sure that that parade route is secure. We have enough law enforcement that everybody can have a good experience and not have some of these knuckleheads come in and try to make a statement. So I would say number one is physical. The second thing is, and I experienced this firsthand, is the online threats. The threats where they threaten your life. The threats where they want to ruin your life and your ability to walk down the street without turning your head on a shoulder or destroying your reputation or that of your families or that of your business. That is something I don't know how we control, because we get that all the time, those online threats. Some of them are subtle, some of them are more blatant. And you don't know, and I think we just saw this on last Saturday, you don't know who is capable of grabbing a gun and looking for carnage. One of the interesting statistics is, in 2023, we only had 3 school mass shootings. Only 3. I think I'm saying only 3. But how many were in the open space? How many were in Walmart? How many were at concerts? How many were in parking lots? And that, I think, is the new thing that you always have to look for whether you're leaving a bar, whether you're having an event. You have to make sure that you're protected. We constantly monitor these things online, but we don't monitor the things that go for an individual. We monitor, if there was going to be a parade, we would be monitoring social media of any group that would want to come here to disrupt that parade. But if somebody wants to attack you because of what you do for a living, you got to let us know about that, because I can't implore you enough. Everybody's got a gun, right? Florida, right to carry without a permit, which makes it even more everybody's got a gun. And our road rage incidents are off the chart because you got people with permits versus people who don't have a permit, and they get in a shootout on the interstate. Or they clean their gun, and don't know what the hell they're doing, and shoot themselves. We have 14 of them.
So that remark about the parade was a good reminder that all candidates have filled out a questionnaire with questions that are specific to the community. One of the questions is, do you support a pride parade in Volusia County? And Sheriff just gave us his answer. So, audience question.
Hello.
Good evening.
I've seen various reports over the past few years of officers not knowing how to interact with a certain population, whether it be their race, ethnicity, or they were neurodivergent. So I wanted to know what you have done on the cultural competency front, and also what you've done with the neurodivergent population and what you plan to do in the future.
Thank you for that question. One of the beauties of having my own academy is just that. I have to teach the 770 hours that the state requires me to, but we teach an additional 550 hours that go above that. And it's race in policing. You know, it's sexual orientation in policing. It's use of force, for example. We have a huge premium on de-escalation. So far, since we implemented that in 2019, use of force is down 50%, injuries to suspects and officers is down 50%, and our clearance rate, which is the ability to clear crimes, is 62%. It's 2.5 times the average. So we partner with BCU. The instructor is going to kill me because he's been teaching for me for 4 years. I'm drawing a blank check. He's one of our diversity instructors. And the other thing we want is when these young folks or old folks rotate through training, they have to go through the entire county. They have to spend time in Deltona. They have to spend time in Pearson. They have to spend time in DeBary. They have to spend time in DeLand. And they have to work community events. So if we were to have a parade, the new academy, the new folks in the academy, that would be their assignment. Their assignment would be to interact with the parade. You know, Juneteenth, their objective was to show up and help serve dinner at a Juneteenth banquet. So that's the objective, is that to get in to know the community as opposed to driving around with your windows up. I can teach you so much, but you know, I'm hiring people, some of them have zero life experience. Zero. You know, and their first interaction is with you when a car stops. And how well is that going to go over? So that's what we try to do. We try to do real life, scenario-based training, have people come in and lecture and speak, just like autism's big for us. We have Orlando sends people in with autism. How do we interact with people with autism? We try to do that with all members of the community. And the number one thing that's mentioned in my use of force policy is the sanctity of human life comes first. That's in our law enforcement policy. We train on that. It's on the academy walls. The sanctity of life comes first. And everybody you deal with, that's the way you're supposed to do things. Are we perfect? Hell no. Do I get complaints? I got people that drive through the window of McDonald's, they're getting a free cup of coffee, and they piss off the person giving them the cup of coffee. So we hire from the human race. Unfortunately, we do hire flawed people. I don't have an x-ray machine to look into their soul. You know, normally I find that later on when they're picking up hookers in their police car or doing something crazy that, you know.
Good answer. So I think we'll try to squeeze one more audience question if there is a shorter one.
I don't know that mine's particularly short, but you can summarize if you want.
Can you talk about Volusia County's use of youth diversion programs, how we can expand those programs, and more importantly, how we can make sure that officers are using those programs as a first line of defense?
Yeah, that is a great question, and here's what we have for you. Back around COVID, the county used ARPA money to buy me the old United Way building on 97 and 92. We repurposed it it is now what's known as the Juvenile Assessment / Family Reunification Center. So any juvenile that gets arrested in Volusia County, whether it's for stealing a chocolate bar or doing a gunpoint robbery, has to go there. And when they go in, they get processed. And then once they are processed, we have every social service agency that works with juveniles in that room, in there. So they automatically begin screening them. What's their family issues? What's their mental health issues? Is there substance abuse issues? Is there learning issues there? So when that kid leaves that building, their parents and them have a plan to keep them, a diversion plan, to keep them from coming back into the criminal justice system. Of course, I hate to tell you, a lot of it falls on the parents, and if the parents don't want to be engaged in it, then I'm losing ground here. But we've gotten state funding for some of our programs because some of our programs have been innovative and creative. There's another project we're working on now. The First Lady has that in there, and it focuses more on a holistic approach. Okay, this kid was arrested for stealing. What's going on in the family life? Why? What were their parents doing? Where do they need help with? They need help with education. They need help with child care. Somebody mentioned something about transportation. So there's a program in there to do that. And I would encourage anybody in this room, if you ever get a free hour and you want to come out there and take a look at this thing, you should take a look at it. The Secretary of BJJ, Department of Juvenile Justice, and DCF are lockstep in with us in bringing all of these different programs in from around the state or around the country to help us divert these kids out of criminal justice. And I will tell you, we opened our doors in November of 2022, and we've probably had close to 4,000 kids come through there. Now, you got to factor in spring break, because if you get caught with an alcohol violation, you go there, and then we call your parents and say, hey, I know you might be in Savannah, Georgia, but your ass is coming down to pick up your son. Okay, you might be over in Tampa, but guess what? You're coming to pick up your daughter, because we're not tolerating that. You pick them up and take them out of here, and and they get a $50 ticket for having an open container. So please, if you get a chance, please come out there and take a look at that.
Thank you very much. Another round of applause for our candidates. So I've mentioned the questionnaire. I've mentioned that you can do, you can submit questions online. Also want to say, I don't know that 5 years ago that we would have as many candidates who would be willing to come stand in front of this banner and say, I want to represent you, and I represent you. So I really want to, we really appreciate the candidates who have come and shown up. And so another round of applause for them, please. Good job supporting the gays. Okay, next up is School Board 2, Seat 2?
Yes.
Seat 2, and it's Cassie Gonyer. I was going to say Gonyer, but yeah, Cassie Gonyer. Now, there's a lot of school board races, and this is one candidate who has shown up to speak about them.
Thank you so much. Yes, Gonyer. I blame my husband. That's wrong all the time. But yes, I'm Cassie Gonyer. I'm running for Volusia County School Board District 2. So that's greater Daytona Beach area, South Daytona, Port Orange, and then Beachside, Ponce Inlet, Daytona Beach Shores. So I am a current high school science teacher, and then I have 3 daughters. This coming fall, they will all 3 be together at the brand new Terry T. Small Elementary. I get 1 year with them all in one building, and then after that, they're going everywhere again. So I'm really excited about this fall. So I have 2 kind of main reasons why I'm running for school board. So I just mentioned I'm a current high school science teacher. I have been teaching for 16 years, both in the classroom, and I currently teach online right now for Brevard County's virtual school. We moved here from Melbourne in 2018, here being Daytona, sorry. And I was able to keep working remotely for Brevard Virtual School even with moving to Daytona Beach. So I do teach online, and that gives me a little bit more flexibility to spend time with my kids in their classrooms. And so as both a teacher and a parent, I know that we need to build connections between those groups. Recent legislation, everything about parents' rights, parental rights, all it's really done is alienate teachers and make kind of a war in the classroom of who's in charge right here, the parent or the teacher. And so I really want to build those relationships back because we need both. As a teacher, I need parents to keep my kids logging into their classes, to keep them successful in their classes. And then as a parent, I want to be involved in my kids' classes. I want to go on the fun field trips And I want to know when one of my kids is having drama with another kid in class. I want to know the good and the bad, and I want to be involved. And so I want to make sure we're getting parents and families involved in our classrooms as well and working together instead of one versus the other. My other reason, I said I live in Daytona Beach. We actually live in the Midtown neighborhood of Daytona Beach. We live 2 streets away from the Bethune-Cookman University. We get to open our windows up and listen to the band play. It's amazing if you haven't heard them play. But because of where we live, that neighborhood, due to integration busing practices, was sending kids out to 12 different elementary schools around the district. So even though we lived right next to Bethune-Cookman, my kids were zoned for Pine Trail Elementary in northern Ormond Beach. That's 30 minutes by car, let alone by bus. So we filled out a variance for my kids to stay at the neighborhood school, Terry T. Small, so that we could be a part of their school, that we could be close by, that I could be involved in their classes, I could be on the PTA. I was the treasurer last year, the Parent Teacher Association. I'm the secretary this year. I wouldn't be able to do that as much if they're going to a school a half hour away. So I am for parents choosing the best schools for their kids, but I want to make sure that our public schools are the best options for them and keeping them in our public schools and taking care of them in our public schools. So I want to take care of both the students and the teachers, making sure that all of our schools have the best resources, the best teachers, the best programs. And the last thing I'll say with that program part, we've had a wonderful experience at Terry T. Small Elementary. My kids have all been really successful. My eldest daughter, she's going into 5th grade this year. When she was going into 2nd grade, she tested for gifted services. But there are no gifted services at Terry T. And actually, there's no gifted services at any elementary school in Daytona Beach. So we would have had to, again, go back to the Ormond Beach school we were zoned for or to our Port Orange school. And that's not acceptable for an entire city to be left out of services. So I want to make sure that all of our students are having access to these programs and best teachers. And I'm excited to say, even as a parent advocating for my child, the brand new Terry T. Small Elementary that's opening this fall will have gifted services that my daughter will be able to take. And that's something as they would advocate for just as a parent. So I'm excited to continue, hopefully, on the school board as well. So thank you.
Thank you. I have a question. Is this the first time you've run for office?
It is, yep.
I think we've had several candidates who are first-time candidates, which just goes to show the need to get involved. So let's move on to the online question. Your campaign website seems to take a clear stance against book censorship that has been occurring in our schools, which disproportionately affects Black and LGBTQ students and puts them at increased risk of harm and self-harm. What is your agenda to combat that problem?
Talking about the self-harm and
the censorship.
The censorship. Gotcha. Yeah, Volusia County Schools actually has a policy in place already for books to be reviewed. So I want to make sure we actually follow that policy because there are some loopholes that I know people are trying to exploit to try to get books immediately taken out for, those various reasons. My family, we are avid readers. I can't keep up with my 5th grader with the amount of books that she reads. We have a competition. She beats me every year. But the key is we work together on the books that she's reading. We share a Hoopla account with the library, so I can see every book that she's checking out, audiobooks, ebooks. We talk about the books that she's checking out. And so I support every family working with their family to decide what's appropriate for their children to read. But I don't agree with one family or one group getting to decide what everyone in the district gets to read. So again, I want to partner with parents and families at the school district. But again, I think it needs to be the family decision of what their kids are reading and no single family. So we'll continue to follow that process.
Thank you. Audience questions. It's the usual suspect. Anybody else in the audience? Don't forget, this is your time. If you want, you can also write it down. I'll read it.
As a resident of a region that's been battered by storm, and as a science teacher, what is your view about climate change? And if you believe in it, how do you teach environmental impacts to your students?
Yeah, I know why you're asking it that way, but the fact that you have to say, do you believe in it, when it's not something to believe in, like it's happening. But I understand why you worded it like that. So yeah, I am a science teacher. I teach physics, earth and space science, marine science. And right now, climate change is still a part of our curriculum. As a teacher, I'm teaching the state curriculum that's given to me. Now, right now, you're probably seeing in the news that they're talking about taking that phrase out of science textbooks. Right now, Florida is in the process of reviewing their science materials. So this year is science for the state, which means next year will be Volusia. Volusia always follows a year behind on curriculum. So that's one of those things that it's happening. So I'm going to continue to, I will continue to follow the law and following curriculum. But a great thing about teachers is there's a difference between what teachers can directly instruct, which has to be the curriculum, and we're allowed to give students choice in the books they choose, the papers they write, the projects they do, the class discussions they have. As long as the class discussions are student-led, they can talk about whatever topics they want to talk about, and I'm there to facilitate rather than directly instruct. So again, it's not something to believe in. I'm going to continue to teach it, especially as long as it's in the curriculum. And if for some reason it gets taken out of the curriculum, then I'm going to find ways for students to continue to research, learn, and teach each other about it.
Thank you. Audience. Okay, well, as somebody who covered the school board, have you been attending the school board meetings regularly?
Some in person and a lot online, so haven't made all of them in person, but definitely.
Right, Daytona Beach, because of the, yeah.
But if I'm elected to the board, I will definitely be at all of them in
Oh,
person.
good. All right, good answer. Thank you very much. Round of applause. Thank you. All right, we're sticking with the county for a second. The Volusia County chair race is pretty crowded. And we have one person speaking on behalf of Don Burnett. Devin Morris.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Devin Morris. I'm a volunteer on the Burnett campaign. We're a volunteer-powered campaign, so all we have is volunteers. I do want to apologize first and foremost that Don wasn't able to be here tonight. He did have a prior engagement, a debate with the other candidates, who decided not to send anybody to this, so I think that should be pretty telling about where we're at on these issues. We wanted to make sure there was somebody from the campaign who was willing to come out and talk about the issues you're interested in, the issues that Don is running on, and so forth. So just a little background information. Don has lived in Volusia County for his entire life. He's been mayor of Port Orange for the last 8 years. He's been on the city council in Port Orange for longer than that. And he's looking to be a unity candidate. So if you've paid any attention to county politics over the last, I don't even know how many years, you know that it's gotten incredibly divisive, that there are people serving on the county council that are highly problematic, that are not consensus builders. And what Don thinks is that we need to bring the county together. And bringing the county together means creating a culture of inclusivity. So that's why I think that Don's campaign is pretty aligned with what we're talking about here tonight. So Don Burnett, just to make it absolutely clear, believes in equal protection under the law for your sexual orientation and gender identity, and no matter who you are, whatever marginalized community you might belong to. He's concerned, as I think many of us are, about the fact that so-called constitutional conservatives in Tallahassee and around here have somehow forgotten the 14th Amendment. So we wanted to kind of come in here and talk about those issues, and then also talk about the things that he's talking about most, because fundamentally he is a sort of technocratic guy. He's really into the brass tacks issues of running the county. So he's running on environmental preservation, ensuring that we have conservation and preservation efforts that are ongoing. He's been talking a lot about beach renourishment, so 6.6 million cubic something of beach erosion that's happened over the last couple of years. He really wanted me to use that stat. He'll be pissed I fumbled it a little bit. But just making sure that the beach that's been neglected for so many decades is getting back to a place where it needs to be. Resilience for climate change issues. Fixing the ambulance system. Affordable housing is a big one. I know LGBTQ plus youth have a higher rate of youth homelessness than any other group. So a big part of that's going to be fixing our zoning, making sure we have that money coming in from the state to be able to address those issues. So I'm happy to take any questions. If I'm not sure of the answer, I'd be happy to get you involved directly with Don Burnett. He will talk to anybody, anytime, over the phone, over email, or anything like that. So I'll turn it over to you.
Oh, Devin for Don. The Live Local Act that was passed by the state legislature that was supposed to be doing affordable housing seems to have been having different effects. Do you have any ideas on the view on that?
So preemption by the state is really common, especially in the current administration. So even before the Live Local Act, we've had issues with the Stowski Fund being raided by the state for various other things. There's not a ton that I think the county government can do except find their own revenue sources for things like affordable housing, use county officials in lobbying efforts to try to get the legislature to take the issue more seriously. Don supports all of that. He also supports more creative solutions like mixed-use zoning and other things that can increase housing affordability.
All right, online question. Would you support an annual Pride Month proclamation at the Volusia County level, as we have witnessed and celebrated here in DeLand and in Deltona?
Yep, he absolutely would support that. He also indicated on his questionnaire that he would support the parades.
Awesome. Next is audience questions. Come on, you don't have anything for Devin, for Don? Here.
Go ahead. I was just going to be a placeholder. If no one else
You talked a little bit about the county coming together as a larger community. One of the things I noticed, I'm not a native to Volusia County, but I have been here quite a long time, is that there is this idea of the east side and the west side of Volusia County, and they kind of all live in their own little world. How do you bridge that? How do you bridge that gap between east side and west side of Volusia County?
It's tough. I think they used to call it the Palmetto Curtain or something like that. There was some weird name for it. So a little history trivia fact there for you. There definitely is a cultural divide. I personally, and I think it shows up more in politics than it shows up in actual community-oriented sort of events and things. I don't think you hear that a lot from people, just everyday people. I think at the end of the day, the role of the county chair is to ensure that they're supporting the cities. So I think the cities have felt a lot of the time like they're being dictated to by the county council, and Don, obviously being a veteran of city politics, doesn't believe in that. He very much believes in listening to the city leaders, finding out what they want, and supporting them. So I think the key is going to be every city has unique needs. Every city is approaching these things in a good faith way, understanding that the needs of, say, DeLand and Deltona are different from Port Orange and South Daytona, but knowing that everybody deserves an equal shot at getting those resources and getting that support. Because it's a cultural thing among politicians. So when we talk about Don being a consensus builder, the issue is that there are, like I said, people who are seeking to divide. And when they're seeking to divide, they'll find any reason to divide. So the east-west divide, the partisan divides, whatever the case may be, they're going to find a reason to do it. So having somebody at the head of the county council who's saying the interests of DeLand matter just as much to me as the interests of Port Orange, it's a step in the right direction.
Any more from the audience? I have one. The county council race, if you go online to the elections office and you take a look at the campaign war chest, have a kind of, there's a lot of money in this race.
There is.
Yeah, any thoughts on that?
Well, the guy who's raised the most money is a used car salesman. I'm not going to draw any conclusions for you, but I think when somebody's raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for a county chair race, you can pretty much bet that they have special interests behind them. If you look at Don's campaign finance reports, they're all like $10, $5 donations, some of them from me. I think that kind of speaks for itself.
All right, round of applause for Devin for Don. Thank you. Up next we have, we're going to cities now. It's Deltona, which has how many races going on? Four of the seats on the Deltona City Commission are up for the largest in population city in Volusia County. And up first is Brandy White. For District 1, Deltona.
How's it going? I probably don't have near as much interesting stuff to say because mine is very local level. Is there anybody here actually from Deltona? Pretty sure I.
They're not going to admit it.
Okay. That's probably true too.
I have a bunch of mine.
Well, the one I brought.
There's also a lot of people online watching.
Yes. So, quick thank you to the Abbey as somebody who did a grassroots Q&A for many years for Deltona and our candidates. I know how hard it is to find a venue that will let you host something like this. So big props to you guys, and I thank you. And to Heather, I want to say big thank you because I originally, although I filled out the questionnaire, did not realize it registered me for the Q&A. And when she sent me my slot, we had a small conversation because I do not accept any endorsements. And I thought this was for an endorsement, and so I declined. And she was very quick to respond, no. It's just a regular old Q&A. You come, you answer some questions, tell about yourself. So here I am. A little backstory. I've been in Deltona pretty much my whole life, between Deltona and DeBerry. So we'll just say 40 plus years. We'll just go with that. I bought my home
in Deltona in '99, raised all my children here. We adopted one, so raising her here as well. I became involved, because if you can't tell, I'm not a politician. I became involved about 9 years ago, back in about 2015, when I saw our trash issue arise in Deltona. I don't know how many are from way back then, but we had a big trash issue that popped up out of nowhere. And what puzzled me as an analyst and an analytical brain is why the government didn't want to solve the problem. I mean, we're seeing all these Facebook groups talking about it. We're seeing all this stuff on the news. No solution. So what I did is I went to my first ever commission meeting. Now, little backstory, I'm definitely not big into politics, but I am a big representative type person. Similar to what we heard earlier, my background is also in advocacy. I did a criminal justice, I have a bachelor's, and my goal was to be a victim's advocate. I'm not using that paper. Instead, I kind of went the business route, and I worked a long time in a brokerage with the COO, so a lot of fraud prevention, a lot of creating processes and procedures, auditing, wasteful spending, getting that down, things like that. So I think that's where my skill set works here. But what I found when I went to my commission for the first time is right as I'm about to tell them the solution, because I did my research and I pulled the public records request of what was going on, they shut me down. And for the first time, like I said, I've never attended before, so I didn't know the large crowd behind me was unusual. It's actually very rarely attended, these meetings. And they started with an outburst. Let her speak, she's got a solution, we want to hear it. And I'm like, now I know why though, I've been doing this 9 years. I know why they did that. I've been the person doing that. I probably am not the favorite to everybody, because sometimes when I feel we aren't being heard, I will go a step outside the box. I'm probably most famously known as having to dress up as a clown to address the clowns. Wasn't something I wanted to do, but I will do it. And I think they've learned that now. That it's much easier to take the opportunity with public comment instead of seeing it as a formality. Like the goal would be to hear the people you represent and actually solve their problems, right? My big three things: accountability, communication, transparency. So it's ACT. What I've been up at this podium for 9 years, probably 85% of the meetings. There was a small stint where I couldn't attend the meetings for legal reasons. I sued them, in case you're wondering. Not because I was barred. So long story short, I found that we lack accountability, we lack communication tremendously, and the transparency was near zero. I've had public records requests cost me $500,000. That was my probably highest one. And that was, I asked them to simply push a button on the computer and download the information. They didn't want me to have that information, so it was going to cost me $500,000. It's kind of why I'm here. Last time we have an election 2 years ago. Our representative has stepped down. We have somebody filling in the seat now, but here we are halfway through the term needing to elect a new person up there. I did not plan on running. It was not until the week of the deadline that I had some residents ask me to meet with them to help them solve a problem. I showed up and they had the candidate packet. And they said, the problem is you're not running. Yeah, they got me. So, I came with my notepad ready to help solve something, and well, that was the problem. So after about an hour talking to about 15 of them and then kind of spitting my words back into my face of, why I would be good up there opposed to at the podium, I agreed to do it. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you. We have an online question. It is, how would you describe the LGBTQ plus experience in Deltona, and how specifically do you intend to improve it?
So I know a lot of the rules and regulations things fall at the state and federal level, right? So local government doesn't usually get too involved in those types of things. We did recently have the proclamation concern with the mayor and how all of that was handled.
So to recap on that one, Deltona did a pride proclamation as the city of DeLand and Volusia County has yet has yet to do. DeLand has, but Volusia County has yet to do. And the mayor abstained because he said that the government shouldn't be involved, right?
Well, I believe there's more than one reason, but that
Right.
was one that was listed, as
Right.
well as personal reason or whatnot.
Yeah.
Ultimately, we do have a process in place that allows anybody on that commission to sign it. So that didn't stop anything from occurring. He gladly allowed somebody else to just sign it, and it took place. How would I, or what have I experienced? I personally haven't experienced anything. I've been here pretty much my entire life. I graduated at Deltona High School. I went to Enterprise Elementary, Discovery Elementary, and Deltona Middle. So the main problem, I don't know if anybody, are you familiar where District 1 is, but we're the third area, kind of butts up to Lake Helen. Little section down by like Cortland, Elkham, kind of goes down near Brewster, up Lake Helen, Osteen Road, kind of back around. We were hugely flooded in 2022. I'm talking, I was probably the person you heard about going out the kayak. That was me out there trying to help give people assistance. There's a whole funny story behind that, but it's not for now. We will have to talk about that. It has to do with an inflatable and a commissioner. Yeah, it's hilarious. But the thing is, when you're standing out there on Cortland Boulevard, for whoever's not familiar with it, and you're looking out at what used to be a retention pond here, and you're standing in knee-deep water looking across the road and all you see is rooftops, there's a problem. Stormwater is nothing new to Deltona. So when a lot of people talk about what our small little town issues are, it's our water first and foremost. Result is overbuilding. Let's be realistic. We've paid millions of dollars in studies, and each one every year say, quit overbuilding. We continue to approve these rezones and these developments, and it continues to flood. For those who don't know, we're a clay base. So we're just a big bowl, a fish bowl. The water can only percolate so far and in so many spots. So the main goal for me, because of what specifically happened in my district, I still am on that. I still have meetings weekly, if not monthly, with all types of different people to try to help resolve that specific problem. Is there any other questions? Because that specific question, I haven't experienced anything personally, so I can't really, speak on that.
Wait, what? Oh yeah, I have one after you.
Okay, great. This is just a quick one, but for the Deltona Pride Proclamation, do you know who signed? Like, were all of the other than the mayor, were all of the?
I believe just one person signed it.
Oh, okay.
Because I believe there's only one that has to sign it.
Gotcha.
I don't think any proclamation has all the signatures, but I could be wrong on that.
Just curious.
Great. So as a citizen advocate for 9 years, what has been an accomplishment that you've made as a citizen advocate?
Okay. I noticed somebody talked a lot about community. One of the things that I feel very proud about is the startup of Deltona Strong, which is a community organization that is branched out. From there, we have Neighbors Helping Neighbors. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that group, but I go out and do a lot of work with them. And basically what that is, if you see a neighbor in need, or you are the neighbor in need, a lot of the things we get are elderly with overgrown yards, code enforcement hassling them because of their yard. We get that phone call, and sometimes even from the city. They do work with these small grassroots organizations, and they'll be like, listen, they're just having trouble getting the yard kept up. Can we do anything? The word goes out, 4 or 5 of us show up with our tools, and we take care of it. So I think the community programs that have been created and utilized, I think is probably something I'm pretty proud of, because I've kind of been involved in a lot of those startups.
Yeah.
Not running them, I give full credit to those who take on that task. But I stay very involved in that. Something else I would say is a lot of process and procedure changes. Because of the situation I went through that ended up in a legal battle, we did have some changes in protections for our residents to not be targeted, especially through the use of code enforcement, because that was a big thing that was happening about 9 years ago. So pretty proud of that. But if I have to pick one top thing, I would say it's the community in general. The support that I seem to receive, even when we're getting hit back hard from the people who are supposed to represent us, I still get those little messages like, hey, like it's gonna make a difference, hang in there, you know, and I think that's probably that connection with the residents.
That's lovely. We have another online question, which is, what is your vision for the future of Deltona, and how do you feel about the idea of creating a more downtown area?
All right, the ever-loving downtown area. I'm probably the slightly unpopular opinion of the downtown area. I don't think we can do 3, which was always the pitch. I just think logistically and infrastructure-wise, that's a pipe dream that probably would not come into fruition anytime soon. I am huge on redevelopment. I don't think we need to develop much more. We need to take what we have and redevelop it. We have a lot of empty space, a lot of empty commercial space. What some people may not understand about Deltona Commercial District, obviously we were not built to have commercial when we were first founded, okay? We've tried to make those corridors, but we're also a city of lakes. So there's only so many sections that you can use and that infrastructure can even go in. Down Howland, there's a lot of tiny lots that can't hold commercial. I have seen recently a couple requests to kind of put them together so that they can be used as commercial space. So that's a positive. But I would like to focus on taking what we already have and redevelop it into something that works. And something we've talked about recently as a small group while we go to restaurants and we meet together and kind of just chit chat. And one of the things that came up was like, we now have a multitude of different dining experiences from around the world as small mom and pop shops here. And I think we're missing that, embracing them and actually focusing on that instead of worrying about when the Cheesecake Factory is coming. Right? Because realistically, are we going to be put on the map for a Cheesecake Factory? We're not. Okay? But we could be put on the map for being the hub of embracing small businesses and entrepreneurships and seeing them succeed and grow. Mr. Chef is an Indian cuisine that just opened up. Tried it out, never tried Indian food before. Amazing. They have had such great community support that I haven't seen as much government support. And so that's personally what I would like to kind of hone in on is, I get we have rules and regulations and I support most of them, but there should be no reason why we cannot shout out our businesses, right? If they're doing an event or if they're doing something, even if we're not sponsoring that event, we should be able to say, hey, guess what? You know, our local restaurants hosting a giveaway, check it out. We currently don't do that. We're currently known as the least friendly with business. And I'd like to see that change.
Thank you. I have one more question if there's no questions from the audience. What's Deltona's motto?
So some of you may not know this, but I have run a Facebook group for 9 years, go figure, right? And it is called Deltona, a city on the move, because that is our slogan, is a city on the move. My Facebook group has 2 question marks behind it, because I question that slogan. I haven't seen this on the move in far over 9 years. So that actually came up in a recent conversation also, and they have actually been pitching the idea of getting rid of that and coming up with something different. I've also heard the City of Destiny used. I probably wouldn't label it that. I would find something different. When we talked about the small businesses and kind of wrapping around them, one of the things that we talked about, because we do have so many different types of cuisine opening up, is what about like Deltona's World of Dining or World of Dining at Deltona? With some of the names that they threw out was like, why don't we like target that and really hit that instead of keep pushing for a Cheesecake Factory or a Texas Roadhouse to come where we have the infrastructure lacking to put them. So, question.
Does Deltona not have a chamber of commerce?
We do not.
Really?
We use the Greater West Volusia.
Really? They were absorbed by the
Yeah. So, yeah, that note, also Deltona has one of the larger Hispanic populations, but there's not a lot of representation on the city commission.
Well, there is now.
There is.
There is. Yeah.
There wasn't.
No.
And who knew Deltona had a motto? Just so thank you very much. Round of applause. Okay, I don't think Jody Lee is here. Speak up if you're Jody Lee and you are here. Okay, so moving on from Deltona to DeLand City Commission seat 2. Is Harper Hill here? Well, barring that, Richard Paiva has sent a representative, his wife. DeLand has one race, and it's going to be on the primary ballot. So if you live in DeLand, you will be voting on it because everybody in, the seats don't represent districts, so everybody in the city of DeLand would be voting in this race.
My name is Ida Paiva. You can tell I don't do this very much. I'm sorry Richard can't be here. He is running for the DeLand City race. I've been married to him for 50 years, so I know him well. He's an elegant gentleman that cares deeply about the land. I've been living here for 70 years. So talk about change. I used to ride my bike from DeLand to DeLeon Springs and never see a car. So there's been a lot of changes for me. I've been riding my bike since 6, and as you can tell, I'm still riding it. You will see me around town with my little trailer in the square. What I want to say is that my son has served the DeLand City Commission for over 20 years because I always felt we should do service. I coached soccer. We had the garden downtown, the veteran rose garden, and they were stealing our roses, so I decided to park my tent at 2 in the morning, and they quit stealing our roses, and then they put alarms on them. I work for hospice, so we're a family of service. We care about the land deeply, its people, and we kind of sit around and say, what could we do? My son has raised money for the Boy Scouts, cancer, YMCA. When it was out on the truck route, I would bring the kids to my house and we would make cotton orders, which if anybody wants one, I'm still making them. So this is what our family is about, just serving our community, you know, and as you can tell, I'm very nervous. They asked on American Idol, are you nervous? Now I know what it feels like to be in front of an audience. I just care about the land so much.
This is great. One thing to put into context for anybody who might not know is that you spoke of your son, who's a current commissioner, right?
Correct. He's been vice mayor right now of DeLand.
Right, and so the seat that Richard is running for is
yes.
his.
You know how the son takes after the father? Well, the father wants to take after the son and continue to do the good work that Charles started. He has this one thing I asked when he started, I said, can we get a bicycle path? And so now I'm proud to say that we are achieving that. And it's going to run right by his house on Garfield. And I use it a lot.
So we had an online question which was, do you see the need for anti-discrimination ordinances in DeLand? Does your family see the need?
I'm not.
Specifically for the LGBTQ community, inclusivity ordinances or anti-discrimination ordinances, inscribing it in the charter.
Well, being that I'm 70 years old, I've seen a lot of changes in that, and I just feel like that we are human beings, and we need to have respect for each other and try to help each other as much as we can. You know, I don't really kind of understand all that because I just view people as individuals, and that's the way our family does. And we try to be, you know, everybody has to live a life that they choose, is what I'm saying, is what I feel. Now, I can't answer for Richard, so please don't take my words for Richard. I'm just speaking for what I kind of raised my son to be a fair person, you know, be honorable, and try to serve in his capacity of making this earth a better place to live. And that's kind of what.
So
Can we write you in on the ballot?
So, okay.
I'm not, I will tell you something Dwight Lewis said. I was always the worker and my husband was always the brains. And it's worked for 50 years. We do argue, I will tell you.
Well, that's why it works, arguing probably. So, okay, on that note, we're going to take a short break to give other candidates a chance to come. And round of applause. Okay, short break. Talk amongst yourselves. Starting now.
How you doing?
Thanks, guys.
Heather.
Out.
How are you? Nice to know you.
How are you?
From the sorry here.
Whatever it's called.
Chapel Town. Nice. They just got the CO yesterday. It's stupid. I ordered a cake on Thursday in Webster. And then the next day I ordered a double door. They didn't have it at the auction.
Okay.
Thinking I got a couple of weeks before it rolls in. They come yesterday during that storm. The guy was like, and I said, I need you to let me know when it's shipped so I know when it's going to be there. It's not open yet. He's parked in front of the truck waiting.
I've been seeing
So I
her.
went over and said, it's been nuts. And then just said, today the double door showed up. I'm getting that because that truck is I mean, I ordered everything on Thursday. I haven't got dual paper to-go boxes or anything else like that, but I've got it's really, I mean, they've done an awesome job with this whole place. No light challenge. How are you? Thank you very much.
I'm a qualified beneficiary, so I'm going to Texas.
No. Congratulations. I told him I came down to Harper 7 years ago. He asked me to come down and say cool words for him, but I don't know.
That first one right here.
Eli's daughter.
He wasn't in the... Yeah.
So we're in the, where are we, the gym? I died. Yeah, we're in that corner. I was just, trying to lose on that. Painted this past weekend. 15 pounds daily.
Did Harper send you
Yes. He asked for
I don't think you can have hours or something. So I don't think you can show them
I mean, I would say more, but I don't. I heard. I just don't. I mean, I would like to be playing in position because that would. He's definitely not. He's well. Let me make sure.
Okay, make sure, and then we can get you in there. Right. So what I do, no, that is a hard drive. I'm going to talk about the things on the table. Here, I think it's
Is this going until 9 o'clock?
No, this Hi everybody. So just want to bring your attention to there's some signs on the tables around the bar here, and this QR code can help you find your polling place. It can help you make sure where your ballot is at, that kind of thing, if you've registered to vote by mail. So definitely check these out. I think there's 4 of them floating around the bar. There's also some QR codes on your tables that you can go to the website that Eli has continued to mention, volusiacounty.org/candidates, and you'll be able to find all of the statements that the candidates have filled out based on our questions specific to our community. You'll also find some fun stickers on the tables, so please help yourselves to some of those, and again, some literature from other folks.
Just a reminder, traffic is in a meeting, sorry.
Just a reminder for all the voters here, if you're not registered as a Republican or Democrat, let's say you're an independent, third party, whatever, everyone can vote in the primary. So there will be a race, I guarantee you, that the chair race will be on your ballot. So at least that one. So please go out and vote, even if you're not registered to one of the major two parties.
Thank you for that reminder. Okay, so I believe we only have one candidate left today.
And he's not stuck in traffic, he's in a meeting, I apologize.
No, that's fine.
I asked him what meeting
So
he's in.
I'm gonna hand it back over to Eli. This is our final candidate, and Bill is gonna speak on her perspective.
Ah, I see. Okay, we're having another, what was your name?
It's still Bill.
Oh, hi. Sorry, I'll clean my glasses. Hi, Bill. Bill is going to speak on behalf of Harper Hill, who's also running for the DeLand City Commission seat. As a reminder, who anybody who lives in DeLand, this is going to be on the primary. It will be on your August ballot. So, don't just vote in the presidential election. As I said way earlier on, the president doesn't fix your roads, doesn't set your local tax rates, and doesn't answer the phone when you call. So, nothing against it, but it means how important local politics is and participating in it. So, Bill for Harper.
Thank you, guys. Hold on one second. That's Harper. He's at the city planning board right now. He is sitting on the planning board, so their meeting is going late. He doesn't expect it to get out until after 9 o'clock. He said if it gets out any earlier, he will come by and join you guys for a beverage, but he asked me to come over and say a few words for him. I own the Elusive Grape. I've been in downtown DeLand for 30 years, in business in downtown for 30 years, and Charles is I call him a friend. I've known Charles for a very long time. I've known Harper for a very long time. I am supporting Harper in this event, in this race, because as a downtown merchant, as a property owner, and as someone that's concerned about where we're going with our future, I know that he and I are in lockstep of what we want to do to help control the growth. He's been doing it on the planning board. It may not be hard to tell with all the growth that's going on in the land that people are trying to control it, but they are. There's only certain limits that can be done as far, if anyone's concerned about the growth. As far as what we can do with private property and property ownership and what we can do to redevelop it. I don't want to speak for Harper. I want to speak in support of Harper and hope that he will make it by here so he can answer y'all's questions. I think it's the most important thing is that you need to know what his positions are and whether or not they match with your concerns or anyone's concerns. We are going to experience an explosion of growth over the next 2 years. Next 2 or 3 years because of something that was just signed into law by the governor called local rule or local rule. What's that?
Is it live local or
live local rule?
Yeah.
So the hard part for us is that effectively, and I am absolutely paraphrasing, anyone that owns a piece of commercial property that is zoned that can be residential, you are allowed to build to the highest structure within 1 mile as a crow flies of where you want to build. So if you own a piece of property within 1 mile of, College Arms back here, that's 16 stories, you can build a 16-story structure with apartments on it, and there's nothing that the city of DeLand can do about it. This is the state law supersedes anything that the city of DeLand can do about it. The only thing that we can do is make sure that the planning board and the city commission put in enough regulations to try to lower the footprint of what they're going to be able to build. They still haven't been able, and I'm going off on a tangent and I apologize, but I think this is the hardest part for what we are going to face is that there's nothing locally that we can do to stop it unless we can enforce or we can start some local mandates or local rules that will help to alleviate some of it. So they haven't been able to say yet whether or not this is a continuation. So if you build a property within 1 mile of, say, College Arms, does that, and say you're 0.9 miles, does that mean that the next property is now within that distance of 0.9 miles? And it just extrapolates. The state of Florida has not been able to answer the city attorney's questions. I was on the strategic planning board that met last year for the next 30-year growth or 35-year growth for Florida, and Darren Elkon, our city attorney, said all of the city attorneys from local municipalities have not been able to get an answer from the state as to whether or not this is self-perpetuating. There is no answer. So as a community, we need to make sure that our elected representatives, which again, I'm full for Harper, do everything in their power to help alleviate whatever is coming our way. But it's a land grab, and as long as people have had property in this town, they got it a lot cheaper a long time ago, and it's going in for prime rates right now, and it's going to be hard for us to adapt. And I think we just need to have the right people in the office that are going to do it. I think we have a great city commission right now. We've had a great city commission. Again, I've been in business downtown for 30 years, and I can let you know, many of you I know have been here for a very long time. It was a whole lot different 25, 30 years ago. And I'm getting off on another tangent, trying to get alcohol consumption outside on the street took us 5 years to get the city commission voted out that voted against us. We literally could not have a table outside on the sidewalk, and people could not drink a beer. There was a gentleman, I won't use his name, went to the commission, said, what's going to happen when one of these kids runs up and grabs a beer off the table and runs around the corner and drinks it? And they voted us down. This happened for 5 years, that we had to vote the people out that weren't doing what we wanted downtown. We couldn't have sandwich signs out there. One of our former city managers thought it looked tacky to have sandwich signs outside, that you couldn't have enough representation, but of advertising your businesses. We've been through a lot of struggles. I mean, many of us have had conversations about it, that we just need to be confident with the people that we're voting in, and that they are going to be taking care of what we feel we want our community to be. I highly encourage all of you to call Harper, go to Harper, and make sure that he is the candidate that you want representing for us.
Understanding I'm sure that we're all super happy we can drink on the sidewalk now. Personally,
right?
It's good, but understand you're not speaking for her. You've been here for 30 years. You're a business owner. Could you speak a little to Harper's background for people who might not know? Because we are also we're live on Facebook, and this will be a video that people will watch.
Absolutely. So, again, I've been friends with Harper for a very long time. I've been friends with many of the people on the city commission, former and past, and he and I have worked together closely in the Rotary. And I know that there was an editorial written that was criticizing there are too many Rotary presidents on the city commission, and I literally cannot think of something better than having Rotary presidents on the city commission. Speaking candidly, I am a former president of our downtown Rotary Club, but we have many volunteer organizations in this town, and I don't think anything speaks more to leadership than what you can do to bring volunteers together to do things for this community. And there isn't a person in this room I know that can say that they don't know Rotary hasn't touched this town in many, many ways outside of Me Strong and all the other big events that we have. So I've worked very closely with him on charity events, on events that you don't even know. I mean, he doesn't go for publicity and things on a lot of the things that he's done, which is why I'm supporting him on this. He and I and many other people downtown are like that. We just want to do what's right for the community and not have to be splashed around that this is what we've done. We're not peacocking about what's going on downtown. We're just trying to do what's right for the community. So I've worked close with him in many, many, many situations that you get to know someone when you can see what they do in their free time and aren't looking to get noticed for it.
All right, let's give a round of applause for Bill. Bill for Harper. Is that the right way it is?
We'll
Bill
do
for
it.
Harper?
Right.
Yeah, all right. I want to say thank you to everybody that participated tonight, including the audience. I like this event a lot. If you go to a lot of Meet the Candidate events, they are dull, and this is never. So I appreciate you, and thanks for tuning in. See you next 2 years from now.